Hi everyone, welcome back in another video tutorial where we're going to be creating this login form, but also we are going to be creating the sign up form. And this is going to be fully functionable, meaning that we can be able to store our user credentials, and we're going to use the MongoDB for that, but also we are going to validate and we're going to use the Auth library for validation, but also we're going to use the Next Auth for authentication. So it's a fully functionable sign up and sign in form. And to be able and to demonstrate that, so let's add uh, a new user over here. So I'm going to add these fields and I'm going to go back to I'm going to copy the password and also we can be able to show our password. So we're going to work on that. And when I click on sign up, we're going to have a message that the user has been registered successfully. And notice that we were redirected to the login page. And so let's sign in with this email and let's click on sign in. As you can see, we are headed to the dashboard page and we're having this simple box here showing the name and the email. And when we click on the logout, we are going to be redirected to the login page. And if we go to our database and we refresh our collection, we're gonna find this the user that we just created. So if you want to learn how to create this, stick with me till the end of this video. Hi, welcome back. So here we are in our Visual Studio Code and I already created a new Next.js app and I'm going to show you very quickly how to do so. So inside their docs, so this is how to be able to install that. So just copy this command and go to your terminal over here and copy this and hit enter and just follow the steps here so you will have these questions and since we're not going to use TypeScript, don't choose TypeScript and make sure to use the Tailwind CSS because we are going to use this website that I recently discovered to be able to create our components to save up a little bit of time and just focus on the most important things that which are authentication, validation, and also we are going to use MongoDB to be able to store our credentials and also we are going to use them so you can be able to log in and other things that we are going to do to be able to create that. So this is the design of our login form and to be able to create that and to save up a little bit of time. So I used this model here in this website that I showed you and this is where I started from. So I didn't want to start from scratch, so I took this code. So just go here if you want to view the code before you copy it. So I copy it here and I created created another route. I called it login and make sure to create this page.jsx and I paste the actual code over here and I made some tweaks to be able to have this kind of design. And also I added these icons. So in order to be able to add these icons, I used the Font Awesome icon library. So here in their website, here is the setup. So go to their page, setup with React, and just follow along all of these steps and just copy and paste all these commands. So just start from this command, copy and paste it in terminal, hit enter. After that, install these, use these commands over here, and finally use this before you can start using these icons. And also I'm going to show you another important element. So I'm gonna go over this quickly because that's not the important part. And another element that here I added in these icons. So when I click on here on the input, the icon or the color of the icon also changes. And in order to be able to do that, so we're going to use the on focus and on blur. So when we are focusing, this is what we are going to trigger as an event listener, and on blur when we are going to exit the actual input. So for each input, I created its own variable state, and in order to be able to use the use state, make sure to make this component as a client component since we are using Next.js. And that's it. So when we focus, so we are going to set the email focus as true, and we are going to rely on the email focus variable state to be able to change the actual color inside this turn operator, and the same for the password input. So now we are going to do the same thing and work on our register page. So what I'm going to do to save up some time, I'm going just to copy and paste and add some fields like the name and the confirm password. So this is our sign up page, and I didn't the confirm password input because it's not going to look good and it's going to be way wider vertically. So I just settled with the enter password input, but I added the enter your name input. And also I made some changes over here just in text. Like for example here, instead of saying welcome back to, I just changed to welcome to. Also I changed this subtitle. Also, of course, I changed the text of the button. I changed this part. And also I added the icon here for the name. So to be able to create that, the first thing that we are going to do since we're using Next.js, make sure to create a new folder here for the new route and create a new file, page.jsx. So the first thing that we are going to do, we are going to copy from here and paste it here and do the adjustments that I'm going to explain here. So of course, since we added the name input over here, I need to add these variables here to be able to handle the focus as we saw for the other two inputs. And also I added the icon here for the user and pretty much it. So I just changed these text. So it's very easy to set because we already built the login page design. So why not use that to be able to save some time? And also for the use effect, the reason why I added it to be able to set the focus when we load the page the first time. So for example here, so I'm going to show you. So when I load the page, the focus it's going to be right over here initially. So we don't have to put or to click on here. And also I added when we click on the sign in, for example, if you don't have an account, we can go back to the login page. So the only thing that you need to do, and that's the power of Next.js. So all what you have to do over here inside the href, just add the login route here, and the same for the login page. To be able to go to the sign up page, add the sign up route over here. So the next thing that we are going to work on, we are going to work on the validation thing to be able to, especially in the register, so let's on the in the sign up page. So let's go to the sign up page. Like when I make sure that the name is typed correctly and also the email and the password. So we're going to work on that. For the validation part, the thing that we are going to start with is to make sure that all the inputs are not empty. So like for example, we're having those inputs are completely empty. And if I click on sign in, we're going to have this error message. And let's say if I type in my name and I type in my email address and somehow I didn't type in the password, we're gonna still have this error message. But if I type something here, we're not gonna have this message anymore. And notice that we're having this object. So this is what we are going to use to be able to update our inputs state. In the signup component, we're gonna create this text inputs object that we saw in the console log. And next in the each input, so two things that, or three things that we are going to add. We are going to add the name of the input. So for the full name, we're adding just full name. And the value, we are going to add the property of the text inputs object. So we're adding here the full name. And the onChange event listener, we're adding the handle text update. And since we are going to use one handle text update function, make sure to add it for in all the inputs, and also make sure to add the value and the name. Like for the email, make sure to add this, and also for the password, make sure to add this, and of course the onChange event listener. So let's head over the handle text update. So since we're using one function to be able to update the state, we need to get the name. So that's why we're using the name inside the input. First, we need to get the name of the input to know which which one that we are typing in, and also we are going to get to extract the value to be able to update the state. And we are using the text set text inputs to be able to update our states, and for to ensure immutability, we are doing this. So we are using the spread operator of the previous state of the objects that, or the text of the objects that we typed in, and also we are changing our actual input by using the property name as the index or the key, and the current value as the value. And so this is how we can be able to change the inputs. And finally, when we click on the sign up, we are going to trigger this function. So make sure to add this on submit, and add the handle sign up submit function, which is the name of this function. Make sure to add this prevent default to avoid refreshing the page. And we are going to check if all the fields are not empty by using this checks. And we are going to return this please fill in all the fields message. That's the error message that we are going to use. And we are using the toast, or this library for the toast notification. So it's an awesome library to use, man. That's it has a lot of features. So I'm not gonna go into this, but make sure to add, make sure to add the toaster tag over here to be able to show the notification. And that's the object that you are going to use for the messages here. And finally, we are going to exit the function because we are going to add other validation stuff because we are going to use the Zod library for that. So that's pretty much it for the sign up button. And we are going to do the same thing for the login page. And the login page, we're doing the same thing. If all the fields are empty, we're having the same message. And if I add my email address and something here, we're not having the error message. So I'm using the same logic that we did in the sign up page. The only difference that I deleted the full name, so we're having two inputs, email and password, and the same for the handle text update, and also we're doing the same verification over here, and actually we're using the toast object to be able to show the error message. And we can be able to use the custom hook if we want to, because this logic is kind of duplicated, but I want to make things simpler, and we are going to stick just with that because there are other things that we need to work on. So, so we finally completed the verification logic, and I'm using the Zod library to be able to do that. But also I got rid from this manual verification that we did for the input field since the Zod library can do that for us. And let's say, for example, if I click on sign in, we're having right now this message, and we're taking this error from the error object from the Zod library. And as you can see, this is the area that we are going to get the information from to be able to show this notification. So I'm going to show how to do this. So let's say, for example, if I type in my name, so we're still having two issues because of these fields. And let's add my email address, and we're still having the error or the password error. And let's say, for example, and also I added this little eye icon to be able to show the password. And let's create our password like this, add a special character and add some other characters. And right now we're not having the issue because all the rules that we set in the Zod library are met in our form. So let's take a look at the code that we were able to do that. So the first thing that we are going to do, you are going to install the Zod library by typing this command and hit enter. So I already did it. And first we need to create our schema. So I just called it sign up schema. And this is the schema that we are going to use to be able to verify our input fields. And since we're having three inputs, we're going to have three elements here. And for the password, we're having this regex uh, element to be able to verify the password that we want to be. So this is our sign up schema, and in the handle sign up submit function, we are going to use the try and catch function and make sure to add this line. And we are going to, and if we're having the return, or well, if, sorry, if we're having an error, we're going to return this error. And this is the area of errors that I showed you in the console log. So we're going to use that to be able to show the error. And to be able to show that in the toast notification, the toast object has the possibility to create your own components inside of it. That's why this library is very easy to do, but also it has a lot of features that you can play with. So we're adding this inside this toast element here. So we are mapping, because it is an array, we're going to map through the errors area to be able to show that inside the toast notification. So this is how this component, so this is how we can create this component. It's very easy. So I'm using the flex and flex colon to be able to put them stacked at the top of each other, but also for each item I'm using, or I'm adding the margin at the bottom, so we can have a little bit of space between each error. And of course you can add the ID, that's something that is in the toast library, so to avoid having duplicate messages. So that's for how we can be able to show and also to set our uh, schema and rules for our inputs. Next, let's go to how I was able to create this functionality where we can be able to show our password or not by clicking on this. So we're going to go input to the input or the password input, and the thing that I did here, I added the password icon over here. So we're using again the font awesome icon library, and sorry, this is the icon here over here. So I just copied the password icon, I pasted it here, and the only thing that I did, I changed the right position since it is absolute as a position, so we can be able to position it relatively to its parent component. So that's why I used the right the right property over here. And also here, what I'm doing, I created another to be able to show the actual icon or the icon. I created a new state variable here that we are going to rely upon to whether show it or not. So this is the actual variable state. So let's go back to our input, password input. And actually, if we click, we are going to set the opposite of the I clicked variable state. And also when we click, also we're going to use that I click to be able to show. So let's go to the input password. If we click, we are going to change the type of the input so we can be able to whether show the password or not. So all what we're doing here, we're using the turn operator of the I and using the I clicked, sorry, I'm using the I clicked variable state to whether to change the type of the input text to password or not. And also, when we're doing this, we are going to set the focus to the actual input, and I'm using the useref hook, and I'm creating the password input ref at the top of our component. So we are creating it, sorry, we are creating it over here, and make sure to add it into the into the input password. So make sure to add it here, and we are going to use it to be able to set the focus. And also we're doing this because if we don't do so, when we click on this, the focus is going to go at the first character of our password, and we need to be over here. So this will fix that. And also I'm using the set timeout to be able to do that because it didn't work. So the only fix, I had to use the set timeout. So after finishing the validation process in the front end, we're gonna work on the back end. And to be able to store the user's credentials or the user credentials, we need to use MongoDB. So that's what we are going to use as the database service. So after signing up into MongoDB, so click over here and click in new project. So in the new or create project page, I'm going to just call it test because I already created one, just to show you how all the steps to be able to create a new one, and click here next after setting the name and just hit the create project. So you will be directed to this page and click on create. And in the deploy or database page, we are going to select free, of course. And also, I just changed the name to cluster 1, but it is by default cluster 0 because I had a problem. So I need to change that. And when I click on create deployment. So just leave this as it is and click on create database user. And we are going to click on choose a connection method and then go over here MongoDB for VS Code and just copy this, and we are going to create a notepad file here just to be able to paste our string. So just copy it here because we're going to use it in the .env file, and click on this and click on done. Then one last thing that we are going to do over the security tab. So just go at the bottom to be able to access, to not have any IP address restriction. We are going to type in this and click add entry and remove this IP address and click on finish and close. And there you have it. So we're having our database. So we're not going to use this database, of course, just for the just to show you how to be able to create that. And that's what I'm going to use to be able to store the user's credential. And also make sure to copy the name. So it's going to be different for you, but this is the name of the database because we are gonna use it over here at the end of this path. After that, go to the VS Code and in the root folder of the project, create the .env file and create a variable like this and paste the URL that we got from the MongoDB because that's the path to be able to connect to our database. And after adding our URL path into the .env file, the next thing that we are going to do, we are going to create our connection to the actual database. So to do so, make sure to create this folder called libs, or you can call it whatever you want. And also make sure to create this function, mongodb.js. And this is the actual code to be able to connect to our database. We are going to import mongoose from mongoose. And another thing, and something that I didn't mention, so make sure to install first the mongoose package by typing just npm install mongoose like this. So after installing it, then you can be able to use that without any issues. And after, and this is the line to be able to connect to our MongoDB database, and we are going to return connected to MongoDB. Otherwise, if it is a problem, we are going to return the error and make sure to export the function because we are going to use it to be able to every time or every HTTP request, we are going to connect to our database first, and that's why we need to export this function. And next, we are going to create our schema. So I create a folder called models and a file called user schema. So basically, a schema is just a structure of the documents inside the collection that we are going to store our information in. It's very simple. So here, make sure to import mongoose and schema, and this is the schema that we are going to create. And since we are having three input fields, so we're going to have three elements here: the full name and the email and the password, and all of them are type string. And make sure to make them required as true. And also we are going to add this so we can have the created at and updated at properties inside our MongoDB. And this is how we are going to create our model. So if there is nothing was created, this is where we are going to create our model by using the model function and make sure that this user name is the same as this one because if it is already created, we are going to go to this part to be able to extract our model and make sure to export the user because we are going to use it to be able to interact our database. And next we are going to create our endpoint. So inside the app, create a folder called API and then create a folder called register and a file called route where we are going to add our HTTP requests. So here to be able to create our or to add the user credential into the database, of course, we're going to use the post method. So first we are going to get the information from the request. So we are going to get the full name, the email, and the password from the request and make sure to add the JSON because it is a JSON file. And then we are going to use the try and catch block and we are going to connect to the MongoDB to our database. And also, the passwords into the database are not gonna stored like we type into our fields. They need to be hashed. So we are going to use this this package called bycrypt to be able to hash the password. So into the terminal. So all what you have to do, type in npm install bycrypt like this. So after installing it, then we can be able to use it. And to be able to use it, make sure to import it here first. And this is how we are going to hash our password. And after hashing it, we are going to create our user into the database, and we are going to import the user that we created into the user schema file. And we are going to use the function create and this and add in all the information that we got from the request. And instead of saving the password, we are going to save the hashed password in the name of the password property. And if there is a problem, we are going to return the error and we are going to return a message to know whether the actual operation has been successfully made. And we need to test our endpoint, and to do so, I'm using the Thunder client. It's very lightweight and it's very easy to use. So and that's something recommended when you are when you are creating your endpoints. So like for example, I'm going to do this to add this name, and that's the email. And let's say this email and password. So I'm going to leave it like this, and I'm going to click send, and we're having a successful message. The user has been created. So let's go back to the database. I already created two users, so I'm going to refresh, and we are going to see our third user into our database. And here it is. So this is our user has been created in our database successfully. So after we created our endpoint, we are going to implement that into the sign up page. So I already typed in these fields to save some time. So when I click on the sign up, so we're having this message that you have been registered successfully. So let's go to our database and we are going to refresh. And here we're having it added in this collection. So the main issue here and that's something that we are going to fix is we need to make sure that the user, we need to check if the user has already been registered in our or added in our database. So we are going to work on that, but right now this works successfully when we click on the sign up. So let's go back to our code and I'm going to show you how I was able to do this. So in the sign up folder, so go to the page and the page file and go to the handle sign up submit function. And here after the sign up schema part, we are going to add another try and catch block for this endpoint. So we are going to add this endpoint inside the fetch function. And also, when adding the await keyword, make sure to add the async here, up here, before the function. So the method, of course, is going to be post, and this is where we are going to pass our information into the body. So make sure that these properties are the same of the properties that we used here into our route file. And if something goes wrong, we are going to return this message by using the toast library. And if everything goes well, so we are going to return this message by using the same toast library. So now we can be able to check whether the actual user has already been signed up. So like for example, if I'm going to use this email address that I already signed up with, and if I click on sign up, I'm going to get this error message, user already exists. And to be able to create that, so the first thing that we are going to do here in our API folder, create another API or another folder I called it already exists. And in the route file, we are going to use the post method, and we are going to connect to our DB, and then we are going to extract the email from the request, and we are going to use the find one method built-in function from the MongoDB to be able to know whether the email exists. So we're going to use the email that we got from the request, and then we are going to select the actual ID and make sure to add the underscore uh, at the first, and then we are going to return the user to the client. So and I'm going to show you first in the Thunder client, like this. So this is my email address that I already signed up with. And if I click send, we are returning the ID, meaning that this email already has been stored into the database. And let's say if let's add another character and I click send, we're having null, meaning that it hasn't been added into the database. So in the sign up component, so in the same function handle sign up submit function, and also in the same try and catch block that we use to fetch to create our user. So we're going to add this at the top. So we're going to add this endpoint. We are going to fetch that, and we are going to send the email that we typed in our form, and we are going to get back the user element here, and this is what we are going to rely on. And this user, this is the actual object that we are using. And we are going to use that to be able to know whether the user has been already signed up or not. So if we're having a positive result where where um, we are going to say that the user has already been signed up. Otherwise, we are going to uh, continue our code and make sure to add the return so to exit the actual function and don't let that be executed. And one last thing in our sign up page, we want that if everything goes well, we want to go automatically to the sign in page. So in order to do that, it's very simple. So the first thing that we are going to do, we are going to import the use router hook from this, and then we are going to create a router, this constant router equal user router, and over here at the bottom under the success message, make sure to add this line and make sure to add the same route that you used for the login over here. And now we are going to work on the authentication when we want to log in. So I'm going to show you like if I hit sign in, so I already typed in the email address and a random password, and I click on sign in, and we are going to be redirected to the dashboard. So I'm going to show you how I did this. So the first thing that we are going to do, we are going to install the NextAuth library because this is what we are using for authentication. And then the API folder, create the folder auth, and then this folder, and also after create the route.js and make sure to write them like this, otherwise you will have an error. So in the route file, we are going to import the next auth. And since we are going to use just an email and password, we are going to use the credentials provider. And so we're going to create this auth options object, and inside of it, we're going to start with the provider. So the providers. So because we're having one provider, we are going to add this credentials provider inside the providers array. So we are going to set the name, and this is going to be empty. And the authorize function, it's going to help us to get the credentials from the client side and be able to uh, know this and to use that into the database to return the user. So if it is returned, meaning that we can be able to log in. Otherwise, we're going to have an error uh, to authenticate. And here we are just returning a simple object here. We're not doing this because we're going to work on that later on just to show you how it is working. But for example, if I set here null and I go back to the browser and I reload the login page again. So after reloading, and if let's type in first the email address, and if I click on sign in, we're going to get an error because here we are returning null. So the session is going to be, the strategy of the session is going to be JSON web token, and the secret, we are going to use the env file to be able to store our secret phrase. So this is our next auth secret, and this can be wherever you want. Let's go back to the route. So in here, after sign in, we're going to go to the root page of our website, and then we are passing our auth options into the next auth function. And then we are exporting it as a GET or as a POST. Now when we log in to our dashboard, so I'm adding some my credentials here, we are going to be redirected to the dashboard, but also I added this little component just to show you how the logout is working. So when I click on the logout, I'm going to be redirected to the login page. And notice, like for example, if I want to access to the dashboard directly without logging in, it's gonna redirect me to the login page. But once I add my email address and the password, I'm going to be logged into the dashboard. So let's go back to our VS Code, and I'm going to show you what I did. So I added this component inside the dashboard, and I added this sign out function, and make sure to import it from the NextAuth React/React. And the next step that you must do is go at the bottom and make sure that this file is created at the root level of our project, and add this little code. And that's basically what we're doing. We're going to use the session provider, and we are going to export it so to be able to wrap it around all the child components of our project. So inside the layout.js, make sure to import this auth provider that we created over here inside the providers.js, and use it over here like this, and make sure the children be inside the auth provider tags. So meaning that all the components that we are going to create are going to be around these tags that we created. And that will enable us to be able to access to user authentication across all the components of our project. And also to be able to make sure that we protect our dashboard and only access to it when we log in. Make sure to add this code. And here you can also add other routes that you want to protect. So now we can be able to use the credentials that we stored into the database and match them with the inputs our sign in or login page. So like for example, I already created another because I forgot the password of the other elements, so that's not a problem. So I created another user. So if I click on sign in, we're not going to have any errors. So we're back to our dashboard. And let's say if I, so after logging out, of course, let's say if I change or I put a random password over here, we're going to have an error. The email or the password are incorrect. And I'm going to show you here in the code. So the first thing that you need to do, you need to go to the route over here and inside the authorize function. So we are going to get the email and the password from the credentials that we got from the login page. And then we are going to connect it to our database by using the connect to DB function that we created inside the libs. And here is the function that we create to be able to connect to the database. So just a reminder. And we are going to use our schema, the user schema, and we are going to use the find one function, and we are going to get the email. So if the email, so that's the first check, and if the email doesn't exist, we are going to return null, and then we are going to return into the client side the error to be able to show the toast error. And then the second check-in, we are going to match the password. And again, we are going to use the bycrypt to match the password hatched inside our database and the password that we typed into our login form. So if it is a problem, we are going to return null. So if it is not a problem, we are going to return the actual user, meaning that the authentication was successful. And one last thing that we need to do or to adjust in our dashboard component, we need to return the name and the email address that we logged with because previously they were hard-coded. So the first thing that you must do, you need to go to the route.js inside this folder and inside the authorize function, make sure to return the email and the name because we were returning just the user and the user has only the email property. So in order to be able to return the name, make sure to add this as well and make sure to add the full name property that we created into our database. And after that, head over the dashboard component and import the use session hook from the NextAuth/React, and then we are going to get our name from the session and also the email from the session. So, so there you have it. Right now we can be able to access to the actual name and the actual password or the email, sorry.